welcome to Preparing for Deployment. Heidi, I'm so glad you joined us today. We're excited, and I want to introduce you to Natasha DeCoste, who's the Deployment Family Support Coordinator. And over to you, Natasha.
Hi, yes, I'm Natasha, and I am one of the deployment coordinators at the Halifax and Region Military Family Resource Center. I grew up in a military family and served myself, and so educating military families is something I'm very passionate about, and recognizing our skills and our resiliency, and it's great to be here tonight.
And Danny?
Hi, Heidi. I guess I'm the only one you haven't maybe met yet. So I am a registered social worker. I used to work at the Military Family Resource Center for 4 years, and about 6 months ago, I moved on to a new position at the Operational Stress Injury Clinic. So I still work with veterans and military members as well as their families, just in a different role now. But they've invited me back to help them facilitate tonight. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you're here with us.
Excellent. And Heidi, I'm Margaret McKenzie. I'm behind the scenes. I'm actually, so my specialty is online training and program development. Oh, you're a social worker as well. Fantastic.
Oh, wow.
All right, let's get started.
All right. So yes, we are here for Preparing for Deployment. You're in the right place if you want to have the opportunity to share common experiences and challenges, have a better understanding of what to possibly expect during the deployment, learn about the deployment cycle. We'll look at a pre-deployment checklist and briefly introduce you to the parenting cycle of deployment. We'll learn about a variety of coping strategies and that there is no one way to experience a deployment. We will look specifically at communications as well during a deployment, and also to become aware of resources that are available to you. So thriving during a deployment often involves getting connected and staying informed, so we will share some of the ideas around those. And this workshop focuses on prevention and personal growth, not counseling or treatment. If that's something you want to explore, we can give you information later on how to access this support. You know yourself best, and what is best for you may be different for someone else. So we invite you to question and explore the information we provide and choose the tools that make sense to you. All right, so if we're ready to move on, we can continue. All right, so now you can use the chat there, Heidi. If you've experienced deployment before, what do you think you might experience, feel, or think during this deployment? What do you think some of the biggest challenges may be? If you're comfortable sharing, you can do so in the chat.
I see we've had somebody else join us.
Oh, perfect. I didn't see that pop up.
Do you think
Vicky
she can hear us?
Hi, Vicki.
Vicki, can you hear us?
No, Vicki can't hear us just yet. She hasn't signed up her audio.
Oh, okay.
I'll work with her.
All right. All right. Well, Heidi wrote her partner's been away for training before and deployed before, but this is the first time deployed since we've had a child. Yeah, so that definitely brings a different dynamic into a deployment. Oh, hello, Vicki.
Yes, hello. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Did you just start?
Yes, we just started. We just kind of went through the introductions and kind of what we're going to be covering. So we just got to our first slide that we're talking about some questions.
Okay,
if you've experienced a deployment before, what do you think you might experience? What do you think some of the challenges may be? So you can definitely speak with us, or you can use the chat feature if whatever's going to be easiest for you.
Okay.
When is your partner leaving, Vicki?
Actually, my son.
Oh.
He's leaving in a couple of weeks. Yeah, and he's been deployed before, once before, and I thought maybe I could be better prepared for his sake. Maybe there's I'll get some ideas of what I can do to help, or he's leaving his partner behind, and so she'll have her challenges as well. Yeah, and I was hoping I could get a little information from you on perhaps where to post letters and that sort of thing as well.
Okay, sure.
Awesome, you're in the right place.
Yay.
Good.
Good, yes. Excellent. All right. Yeah, so we're just talking about some of the feelings and some of the challenges that might come through this deployment. So with Heidi, first time deployed with a child, can bring some challenges for sure. Figuring out the new routines, doing it solo for a little while. Yeah, and some big challenges maybe, for Vicki, maybe, how to best support your son and his partner, as well as taking care of you as the parent. Definitely. All right. All right, we'll move on. All right, so on the screen you see here is the deployment cycle, or cycle of deployment. If you've seen this before, you can maybe type yes in the chat, or you can give it green check with the icons there. And if you haven't seen it before, that's okay too. We'll talk a little bit about it. Vicki, had you seen this before?
No.
No? Okay. And Heidi, we did talk a little bit about it at the last session too. So it's the same visual for sure. So on your screen is the cycle of deployment. Each person, of course, has their own experience of deployment, but families do report some similar experiences as well. And these experiences have been grouped into 7 stages. And there are a variety of stress levels associated with the stages, which is common and adapted and expected, because families need to adapt to these different stages. And family members individually may be at a different stage than another too as you travel through the deployment cycle. There's ups and downs during the cycle, kind of like a roller coaster. You may feel calm and ready one day, maybe unsure and anxious another day. Again, this is expected and are common reactions. So we're going to look at, on the next slide, the first couple of stages where you may find yourself now. All right, so stage 1 is labeled the anticipation of loss, and this is the time when you're preparing for the deployment or your loved one is preparing for the deployment and getting things done. So this is working through this checklist and things like possibly finances and power of attorney. And there's no doubt fluctuations in the energy level, the mood, maybe fantasizing about things rather than fully accepting the reality of the deployment. There may be feelings of sadness, excitement, tension, frustration, just to name a few, and these are all possibilities at this stage. Stage 2 is detachment and withdrawal, which happens closest to the departure day. Reduced emotional and possibly sexual intimacy is quite normal. You may have feelings of despair, they're impatience, are all common. Another thing families report about these stages is that they seem to bicker or argue more over things that they wouldn't normally. So we've had one family share with us before that her and her fiance had argued about choosing the comforter for their bed, and she thought that if they couldn't figure out what color the comforter could be, how could they possibly go through a deployment? So this is common again and makes sense because it's easier to say goodbye when you've created some distance already, but keeping the lines of communication open as you go through these stages can add tension to relationships. And again, feelings are not right or wrong, they just are. So there's a question there at the bottom of the screen too. Oh, if we can go back one more time, thank you. So do you see yourself in one of these 2 stages? You can use the chat or you can talk with us as well, kind of thing. If you see yourself, anticipation of loss possibly, detachment and withdrawal. Heidi said your partner has already deployed, so you possibly most likely went through these stages already. And Vicki, possibly this may be something that you're hearing from your son and his partner, that they may be having some of those feelings or those little bickering moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Heidi, you're right. He's gone right now, so you had both of these, and now he's gone. And unfortunately, it looks like he'll probably be back there before he goes for real. It's just the nature of the military lifestyle. Right.
Yeah. And the small trips are challenging for sure.
So is it just Heidi and I on this webinar?
Yes. Yep.
Hi, Heidi. So did your husband leave? Or has he left yet?
Yeah, Heidi's using the chat just because she has a little one, and the little one was a little fussy in the background, so she's just using the chat. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So he left last. And okay, would that be better if I use the chat?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
No, so I guess I'm wondering, is he gone for a while, for 6 months, or is it shorter? Did you say it was a shorter leave?
Hers was,
I think
believe,
she said it was 4 weeks at one point, and then the summer is going to be a 6-monther. So they're just getting ready.
They're preparing.
I gotcha. Okay. So we just
it's really nice to have your voice as well.
Yeah. No, it's the pre-deployment. I've seen that, and that's small stuff. Then the big stuff. She has big stuff yet to come. But yeah, it's interesting. I've noticed a little bit more bickering between my son and his partner, and I think it's stressful. There's a lot to remember, and my husband used to go to sea, so I understand those feelings, the waves. Yeah, so it does make sense to me, and yeah, anyhow, I just wondered, Heidi's had already deployed, so I was curious. She's at Halifax. He's in Halifax.
He's in Halifax, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, very good. Carry on.
No, it's great for you to share in your experience. That's what this is all about as well. Definitely. Yes, and yeah, Margaret wrote that his partner would benefit from this workshop as well, so we can definitely share our information and our contact info with his partner as well. Yeah. Oh, excellent. Okay, thanks, Danny. All right, so now we'll talk a little bit about the Preparing for Deployment checklist, which there's a few examples on your screen. We have a generic checklist for families to reference that we'll attach to the after-session email. And some of the things to consider is possibly starting to do the things that used to be under your loved one's responsibility. So this could be cooking, paying the bills, at this time of year using the snowblower. So getting used to maybe doing some of those things. Getting any needed repairs on the home or the car, those vehicle registrations, deadlines, the insurance, license plate renewals, as well as getting personal and financial administration stuff complete. So this is, again, the bill paying, the bank account numbers, passwords. We've had families before say that they couldn't access pay or different accounts because they didn't have each other's passwords. And sometimes with the time difference and the member's work schedule may not coincide, so it's important to have that stuff on hand so there's no delay in services type of thing. So yeah, looking at credit cards, payment plans, wills, and power of attorney. Those with children, we always encourage to look at updating passports if you have them, as well as travel documents. If you're planning to travel outside of the country with children, a note from the deployed parent stating that you are also the parent and can travel with them is important to have. And the Government of Canada and most, if not all, airline websites have that information for children and have a template of that letter that you can access. Up-to-date medical information, so those health cards, copies of health plan claim forms, information on the health care plan. Many insurance companies will need the original signature from the member for any claims to put in, so that's important to have on hand. And it's something that if you don't need, that's great, but in the event that they would need it, then it's there. Identifying others who can help with some of those responsibilities around home, so that could be the snow removal, perhaps home repair, who can give you a hand when you need help, and an emergency plan, which is always a good idea to have, but particularly during a deployment. So, you know, having some concrete written plans for those unexpected family crisis or emergencies, and sharing a plan with children or other family members who are old enough to understand who you can count on, what are their phone numbers, who can children call if they have a problem and you aren't there. If you're new to the area and want to expand your resources, and definitely come to the MFRC, join your community groups or a gym, and having all that information in an easily accessible place in your house, or maybe the kitchen fridge or by the front door, where everybody knows where that information is. And if you have children, talking to the children about the upcoming deployment. What are their feelings? Do they have questions? Again, this is only a few examples of types of things to prepare for. And as you said, Vicki, it can be very overwhelming for sure. All the things that you don't always think of on a day-to-day basis, but want to make sure they are in place before somebody is leaving for a little while, is just good information to have too. And if there's anything else to add, definitely you can put it in the chat or let us know, because it's definitely a fluid list in whatever works for your family.
Yeah, we've heard stories about the spouse taking off with the only credit card.
No.
All right.
It does happen.
Ugh, right. So then, yeah, what do you do?
Creative things.
Creative things, yes. In a panic mode sometimes, right? No, but yeah, no, definitely, yeah. So just some things to think about and get in line before the deployment. And we'll send a copy of our pre-deployment checklist in the after-session email.
Oh,
So
that's great.
Yeah, so we'll have a bunch of different things that we'll send out, so definitely forward that on to your son and his partner.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, I was going to ask you if these PowerPoint slides would be available, so that would be great.
Yeah, yep, for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, next slide, please. All right, so going back to the cycle of deployment, so we're moving into stage 3, which is the emotional disorganization, and this is the magical thinking phase. You know, maybe the deployment will be canceled, maybe they don't have to go. This may also show some sleep and appetite disturbances, as well as possibly feelings of release that the deployment has started, the anticipation feeling is over. And it's called emotional disorganization for reasons, because there may be feelings of guilt, anger, loneliness, confused, irritability, again, which is all part of the cycle and part of that roller coaster hump that we're heading up there on the first part of the deployment cycle. Basically, families report they're kind of all over the place when it comes to their feelings until they find themselves into stage 4, which is the recovery and stabilization. And this is often associated with those feelings of increased confidence, independence, freedom, and pride as they journey through stage 4. So like the other stages, it's also common to experience those more difficult emotions like anxiety or isolation. So as family members find their groove, it's not totally uncommon for the military member to see that their family is coping well, which is great that knowing that their family is doing well helps the member be able to focus on the mission and their care. So again, feelings are feelings, they're not right or wrong, but definitely to acknowledge them. And so on the deployment cycle, there's also stage 5, 6, and 7, which are discussed during our Preparing for Reunion workshop, and those are scheduled for a later date. So that's something to keep an eye out for too as you travel through the deployment, as your son does, Vicki, to keep an eye out for that date so that you can participate in that too, where we talk about some coping strategies and what a reunion looks like. Excellent. Now I'm going to pass it on to Danny.
Okay, so yes, like you said, we'll be offering workshops related to reunion closer to the time when these ships will be coming back. And as well, just a note that the next slide, this one does pertain to the parenting cycle of deployment. So we don't have a date scheduled for the Supporting Children Through Deployment workshop yet, but it will be coming up. If we get a date, Natasha will include it in the after-session email, and if not, you're always welcome to contact Natasha to see when it's running, and if not, the information is always available, and we're happy to connect you with that as well. So again, this will be in the handout in the after-session email. What we want to emphasize in this is that children, no matter what their age, will have their own experiences during deployment. The parenting cycle shows reactions that may occur with the child, the deployed parent, and the at-home parent. Okay, so the first phase is a little bit different here. So the first, it's 1, 2, and 3. I think this is a different image on the screen than what I have. But the first phase is the same in the sense that it refers to the anticipation of loss and the detachment and withdrawal. So some of the things you might see with kids at this phase, they might cling to the parent who's leaving. They may also cling to the parent who's going away. They may have some acting out, some tantrums, things that are out of character. Even very young children have the capacity to miss the parent who's going to be away because they can also sense tension and change coming in their household. So even very young babies might seem a little out of sorts. From there, children and parents also experience the phase 2, which is the emotional recovery and stabilization, where they get back into a bit of a routine. Things start to feel a little bit more like the new normal during deployment. And then, of course, there's the phase 3 as well, which is anticipation of homecoming and adjusting to the new normal that will be after deployment. So again, we're just going to touch on this very briefly, but an important piece is keeping open communication with children, letting them know what's going on, and normalizing their feelings. It goes a long way to helping them manage the deployment. So we also want to acknowledge the four-legged fur babies that may be in your homes. And although we have yet to create a list of challenges and coping strategies specifically for pets, we know from families that family pets also experience a wide range of reactions to a deployment. Do either of you have a pet at home? A furry friend?
Well, no, he doesn't on my son's side, no.
What about you, Heidi? Any furry friends? Or scaly friends or whatever, I guess. 2 cats. Oh, they wander the house aimlessly more when your partner is gone. Yeah, you know, a lot of people say that cats are indifferent, and they certainly would have you believe that. But my cat is not himself when one of us is away. He has this forlorn meow that he saves for when one of us isn't home. So absolutely, pets can feel a difference too, dogs and cats as well, and it's important to pay attention to those two, maybe give them a little extra love. So families have told us repeatedly that one of the most helpful things to know is that what they're feeling and experiencing is normal. The author Brené Brown has a great quote. The 2 most powerful words when we're in a struggle are "me too." Deployment is not all about struggles. There will be moments where it may feel like one though, and that's okay. Accepting your feelings and the range of positive and negative emotions is important. Keeping the lines of communication open between family members makes a huge difference. When you have your loved one home, spend time together when you can. If you have children, talk to them, as well as parents, friends, extended family, and include them in what's going on and what's about to happen. Make plans for the departure and what you want that to be. Will you go to the departure, or will you make it on another day? What works best for you? I've certainly heard from families that it's easier for them to kiss at the door like it's a regular work day, or have a hug on a Sunday after dinner. And that makes it just easier for their family. And there's no right or wrong. It's just what's best for you. Try as much as possible to put your energy into the things you can control. Deployment is not something that you can control, but a lot of what goes with it and how you approach it, those parts are within your control. Choosing your battles so you have the energy to take care of yourself and your family will also be key in maintaining balance. As they say, you can't change the winds, but you can adjust the sails. So just as everyone's deployment experience is different, so too are their coping strategies. Here are some common strategies that are good every day, but can be even more important during a deployment. We've talked a lot about feelings and the range of them you could have, and accepting and sharing these feelings can be helpful. Listening to other members of the family and what they're experiencing also provides the opportunity to gain perspective and understanding. You can be creative in how you do this. Family talks can be a great way to share what's going on, how people are feeling, and how you can work through some of this together. Some feelings are temporary, and it's just as important to acknowledge them. Others might be part of creating a plan and problem solving. For instance, perhaps you know that a birthday or a special holiday is going to happen during the deployment. What can you do to celebrate in a different way? Maybe a child is feeling sad because the deployed parent is the one who does the bedtime story. You can talk with the parents who maybe record the story for the child so they can listen to it every night, or maybe older children can take over reading the story. Some people share feelings and work through them by writing them down or sharing letters, texts, something like that. Older children and parents can pass a journal back and forth where they can communicate with one another. Lots of family members will tell you that understanding and accepting that the deployment is the reality instead of fighting with it was key for them in approaching their challenges related to it in a more positive way. They also report there are less overall challenges when they shifted their mindset to acceptance. You can't change the deployment, but you can problem solve a lot of the things that come with it. So trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle amongst all the other competing demands is a great strategy to embrace. We know this one can be super tough, but thinking ahead and coming up with a plan for this can help make it a priority. We all function better with healthy food, some exercise, and decent sleep. I say this realizing that one of our participants is an 18-month-old. I don't have to tell you that sleep sometimes goes to the back burner with young children. So nurturing a support system and letting them know ahead of time that they're a part of your team can be very helpful. It really does take a village. self-care is a big one, and we don't necessarily need to go to the spa. What we mean is that you need to keep taking care of yourself. What do you need to take care of yourself? Saying yes to a healthy lifestyle. When can you get a breather? Who can you talk to? When can you have fun? We often find that the first thing people let go when they're distressed or have a lot going on is fun, and it's such an important part of taking care of ourselves. What are your priorities during this deployment? It can be helpful to think about them beforehand and create a plan to help you make decisions about balancing all the demands and establishing boundaries and limits. What part of self-care is most important to you? You can use the chat, or Vicki, you can speak out loud to tell us.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What part of self-care is most important to you? How do you know when you're taking care of yourself?
Well, you're just happier. You just feel better.
Definitely. You know, for me, I know I'm taking care of myself when I remember to drink a couple bottles of water in a day. If it gets to be 2 in the afternoon and the water bottle is still in the purse, I'm not doing a great job of taking care of myself that day. And that's okay. It's okay to forgive yourself for that, but then noticing what are the things that help me feel well. That's the important part. Any ideas of what you do for self-care?
I mean, for me personally, it's exercise, and I meal plan.
That's great.
That's a big one. For making sure that I don't eat on the run, and I prepare healthy meals in advance.
So important. It's amazing what a little bit of prep can do to help us take care of ourselves. Spending time in nature, is that yours, Natasha?
Yes, that's mine. Yep.
I hear you.
Just listening to the wind in the trees, just looking at the water.
Beautiful.
Just being quiet, listening to animals. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
and Heidi has stuff in the chat there too.
Yeah, so self-care for me is doing things other than work, school, and keeping my child alive. Yes, anything beyond those is an absolute win. So showering, finishing coffee before it's cold, getting sleep, absolutely. They are small acts, but those are the things that keep us well. It doesn't have to be a spa day, although those are fabulous. Finishing a hot cup of coffee is a pretty good feeling too. So maybe your priority is to continue to sit down and have family meals or meet up with friends once or twice a month. There are different things that you can do to take care of yourself, and consider what do you need to make those things happen. Finding time to rest and have fun can be a challenge, without a doubt, but planning it can sometimes make a big difference. So humor during this journey will serve you well, as will a little bit of planning where possible. So what do you plan on doing for fun during this deployment?
I mean, it's not really going to affect my life like it's going to affect the wives and the children of and the husbands of the people being deployed.
Yeah, well, parents are in this too, but maybe something fun you can do with your son's partner.
Oh, absolutely, and that's why I'm listening to you, because I mainly want to be a support for her. I think that's tough, and I've been in that. I've been on that. Had those shoes on, so I sort of know that you do need people around you, and you need to plan to do things. And yeah, it's not all work and no play, right?
Absolutely. It's great that that his partner has you available. You're part of the team, and this certainly affects you too. So it's great that you're already thinking, you know, maybe she may need a helpful nudge to remember to include fun. And Heidi, that does sound great. Arrange childcare for a night, invited friends over to celebrate your birthday. Good for you. That's a great thing to do, to have some fun and relax a little bit. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So we've experienced, so both of you have been through deployments before, it sounds like. So what communication strategies might you have tried during times of separation from your loved ones? What did you find helpful?
Well, for me, my husband and I, we sort of, I mean, he wasn't really in the Navy per se, but he was at sea, and we used to have, date nights. So we would plan to talk on Sunday nights, for instance. And yeah, I looked forward to that, and I, wrote down things that I wanted to remember to tell him and ask him about, that sort of thing.
That's a great idea. I love that you called it date night too. So it's like, yeah, we're not together in person, but I'm doing, I'm having my food and you're having your food, and we're chatting with each other like we're just sitting at the same table. I love that. And especially the idea of keeping track of the things you want to say. That's a great one for all of us. It's also a great one with kids, of course, who might get a little bit shy when they're on the phone with their parents. And how you said sending regular update messages in case you can't respond quickly, which is a reality, unfortunately, sometimes, made you feel like you're sharing. That's a great one, too, and there's no harm in that. I imagine he loves opening his inbox and seeing a bunch of messages to read. I know I love that feeling when I've had to be away from my partner for extended periods of time. So we may not realize just how reliant we are on our current forms of communication until the time of deployment comes. We're thankful and fortunate to be able to communicate fairly regularly during deployments now. It's very different than the times in the past. However, there are still challenges to think about prior to deployment, like time zones, different schedules, and communication blackouts. So communication blackouts can happen for a variety of reasons and can really throw a wrench into the communication plan when you're used to having steady, regular, and reliable contact with your family member. Blackouts might be scheduled, but they can also be unexpected. However, they are rarely because of an emergency, and they're rarely cause for concern. If you are concerned, or you're not sure if a communication blackout is going on and you're concerned that you maybe haven't heard from your loved one in a while, you're more than welcome to contact the MFRC deployment staff, including Natasha, or you can contact the duty padre, who can be reached 24 hours a day if there is something more urgent. Oftentimes, the MFRC will hear from the ship's command that there's going to be a scheduled blackout so that we can let families know so they needn't worry. Like other parts of the deployment, managing expectations is key. Before your family member leaves, or whenever you have the opportunity to talk about what each other's expectations are. Talk about what would happen if you had big news to share, both good news and maybe not good news. In case of emergencies, again, the duty padres can help make contact with the ship, and they are reachable 24 hours a day by contacting the MFRC's main number. Communication is an area we've seen great creativity from family members. Some family members hide notes and letters in pockets before they leave, or have cards prepared for special occasions to go with them. Care packages are also a great opportunity to communicate. Some couples learn the art of the love letter again. Children can also find great ways to communicate through pictures, answering questions asked by parents in emails or texts. Keeping a list going of things to share, just like you mentioned, Vicki, can be really helpful too, so you don't forget when you finally get the chance to talk. A few ideas just for some things to maybe avoid in communication would include the who had it worse game, or as I like to call it, the Murder Olympics. It's a game we rarely win, even though it's very normal to feel this way from time to time and get a little bogged down with, well, this was my day and it was much worse than yours, but unfortunately it just takes things down an unfortunate rabbit hole. So try not to keep score. Don't count how many times who said I love you or who sent the most emails so far. And be cautious of overusage of social media or media in general. A couple other considerations might be to be mindful of communicating when you're upset. The tone of technology can sometimes be misinterpreted. As in, what does that exclamation mark really mean? We've all received an email that starts with, we need to talk. Could be great things. Yeah, you're laughing. It's nothing strikes fear into the heart of all when it could be something great. So just a reminder, just to be mindful that text is not the same as verbal communication because you can't read the tone. So just something to keep in mind when you're communicating that way. As well, just a note that discussion about the mission will likely be limited and conversations probably won't be private. So just keep in mind that there might be someone else potentially hearing what you're saying. So unmet expectations equals frustration. So important to talk about the expectations before the deployment starts and what's realistic. Making a communication plan before the deployment is useful, and some areas to consider might be how often will you try to communicate, how and what methods will you use, what will be available. So it depends on the ship, it depends where they are. And what will you do when technology isn't working? If the line is breaking up or drops or the screen is freezing. I had one spouse tell me once that she and her partner would start their conversations by saying, "I love you," just in case the call got dropped. At least they got to say that part, which is really sweet. Also important to chat about how much do you want to know and what do you maybe not want to know. So that could be different for everyone. Some people want to know every detail of what's going on at home or while they're away, and some people are good with not so much. So what can we discuss effectively without getting a lot of upset? And maybe checking in on what are our communication hotspots. So a few of our communication reminders for families include I statements, remembering to say things like, "I feel like this," not "you made me feel like this." Active listening, thinking about the tone of your voice, body language if you're on a screen, asking for clarification and more information when you feel you need it rather than making assumptions, naming the emotions you're feeling, and recognizing that thought distortions like mind reading, thinking things are worse than they are, taking things overly personally, just being mindful that sometimes those do creep into our minds, and to check ourselves and see what might be really going on and communicating with our partner or our loved one. Be mindful that the plan, although it can be perfectly laid out, sometimes it doesn't work out exactly the way we'd hoped for. There's a better chance that you'll be on the same page more often, at least if you have a plan, but it goes a long way to be flexible and renegotiate the plan as needed. There may be misunderstandings that can lead to worry, so try as much as possible to be kind and patient with one another. Unfortunately, mind reading is not one of the possible communications available. I know, it would be great. I haven't figured that one out yet. So we have a couple questions related to that. So for those of you we've talked about who experienced a deployment before, and what you might think and feel. Oh, she's already covered these.
Yeah, I think we did a couple of them already, Danny.
Oh, okay. I think I'm out of order. Anyway, so 6 questions to think about. Oh, I still don't have the right page. My apologies. There we go.
Yeah, it's not in the script. Yeah.
Okay, we are good.
We're good.
So 2 important elements that can support families are getting connected and staying informed during deployment. The MFRC supports families with these 2 elements by hosting briefings, information sessions, social activities, special events, and workshops, just like tonight. We also send regular emails and post to the closed Facebook group. Be wary of media reports and rumors. Be sure to check with your loved one or the MFRC to get clarification if you hear something, and take what you hear on social media, of course, with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. Can I jump in just for a second, Danny?
Yes, please.
Sorry. Yeah. So yes, Heidi just said about the closed Facebook group. So on the longer deployment, so the 6-month deployments, usually for the ships, we have a closed Facebook group for the family members, and that's where we share different coping strategies and tips and things like that on there, as well as through email too. But they're also a great avenue of support as well. So Heidi, if you want to make sure that we have your email address, and I think I do because I have sent you an email already, we'll make sure that you get onto our deployment email list. And we send things, of different workshops that are coming up or different events that, and so when he leaves in July, yes, for the 6-month deployment, we will be starting up a Facebook group for that, that you will have to ask to join, like a friend request, like you would on any social media platform. And then you have to let us know who your loved one is on board. So you give us his name, and then we just make sure that you're listed on his contact form that I had mentioned earlier, and then we accept you, and you can ask questions there. You can offer support to others. You can plan a play date if there's other people there with the same age children or things like that. So it's a great avenue of support for the family members, whoever the family members are for the loved ones as well. Yeah. And Vicki, you had mentioned about mail. You were asking about?
Yeah. Where to post. I asked because I seem to remember the last time there was a special address, so it was sent over. He got it quicker than regular post.
Right, right. So he's deploying in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, so obviously Heidi's partner is going to be relieving him because he gets back in July. So we're on opposite deployments. Right.
If you're comfortable sharing, is he on a ship?
He is.
He is, okay. Yeah, so to be able to mail to a ship, we do have the address specific that's coming out of Halifax, and you can drop off those parcels at either MFRC location, and it gets mailed for free to the ship through base channels, like through the base mail office and things like that. So that makes it sometimes a little quicker than Canada Post because, you know, it does go through the same process.
What's an MFRC office in Halifax?
Are you in Halifax?
Yes.
Yes. So we're located in Windsor Park in Halifax, which is just down the road from the Halifax Forum.
I know where it is, yeah.
Yeah, so we're in that location. So during the regular Monday to Friday business hours, you can come in and drop off a parcel. There are certain size limitations as well as certain things that you can send because it does go through mail, so like batteries and things like that can't be sent for safety reasons. But we have all that information in one of our guidelines, and I can include that in the after session email.
Okay, that's great. I was just
going to process.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, and we have all that stuff, all the customs form and the address labels and packing supplies at our Halifax location that you can bring that in and do it all right there, and staff will make sure that it's filled out.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's always nice to get.
It was different last time. I just had I think a P.O. box. I mailed it to a P.O. box, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I probably could find that, but yeah, this is better. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and that's okay.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. Yeah. If you're close to an MFRC, definitely pop in and mail something because it's always nice for the members to get something from home, right?
Yeah, and we can actually do it from any MFRC in Canada can get it to the ship. So it doesn't matter if you're in Halifax or BC, you can still send things to the ship.
So how is it sent then? Where does it go through?
So,
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, so the Military Family Resource Centers are just a drop-off location. So you drop the parcels off, we make sure that it's labeled correctly, and then the Fleet Mail Office, so the mail office that's located at the dockyard, will come and pick it up, and then they take it to their location, and it goes through the X-ray process and making sure everything is safe to go, and then it gets sent via Trenton, I believe.
Okay.
So it's sent from us to them, and then it gets dispersed to the various ships and deployments around the world.
Okay, and it is a little quicker, is it?
It seems to be, now depending on where the deployment is and the time of year, sometimes affects the deadline, the timings kind of thing. But for the most part, it can be, we usually say 3 to 4 weeks, because the only time that they get mail is when they're in port.
Right.
So there may be, and then mail has to go through that country's customs as well. So sometimes that takes a little bit of time. So that's where Danny was talking about some of the planning pieces for, you know, celebrations or birthdays. Like if you know that something's coming up, you know, a month from now, it is still a good idea to send it. They may get it early, but
yeah, I'm just thinking it might be an idea to send something now and then leave it in a couple of weeks. He's actually one of the pilots on board. So he's not going at the same time ship, but he'll be going shortly afterwards. But if he was to mail it now, he would get it shortly after he gets there.
Yeah,
it is nice thing, even if it's just a letter, it's nice to be included. Yeah.
No, for sure. Or his favorite candy, or that kind of thing, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's some favorite things that people seem to like to receive.
Yeah. So we have a lot of members that will mail themselves things before they deploy, so that it will be the first port that they get to. Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's definitely interesting. But yeah, I can include all the mail information in the after session email too, and then that way, Heidi, too, you can be prepared for when the longer deployment comes there in the summer. So perfect. Yeah, I just didn't want to miss that mail question, because that's very important. So yeah, thanks, Danny.
It's a big one, and boy, it really does make a big difference for brightening someone's day. Just a caution that sometimes things arrive out of order. So you may want to plan accordingly. I mean, really, it does no harm to send, for example, a Christmas present months in advance. Just tell them to tuck it away and open it closer to the time. Better that than missing it. So no harm in sending things. And also, if I'm not mistaken here, Tash, there's no more mail drop deadlines.
Right. Yeah. So before, there used to be deadlines for specific times, but we've gotten away from those because, again, you can mail things at any time. You can mail 2 parcels at a time, 3 parcels at a time, however often you want to, or they request it. Sometimes members request things too, so definitely go with that. The only time that we might send out a deadline is when it's coming towards the end of the deployment, because we want to make sure that it gets to them before they're going to be starting to head home. But other than that, mail goes every day, Monday to Friday. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But just to be conscious of the amount of space that they have on board too.
Yes, of course. It's all got to come off again with them. It's That's so funny. It seems like individual cups of craft dinner are like, that must be the #1 thing people request. That and gum.
Are you serious?
Beef jerky.
Okay.
Can't make that up, eh, Tash?
Yep. Oh yeah, all kinds of things. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so, just like the mail, things can change. So if there is anything going on or any changes to policies during a deployment, you'll be informed. If you're on our mailing list, you'll receive emails with updates and things like that. And remember that missions, of course, can change. Information can get confusing and incorrect if it's coming from unofficial sources. So if your loved one is deployed on a ship, the ship will send the MFRC an official message for us to send to the families. So if you haven't heard from us, it's probably nothing to worry about. And if you are concerned, do feel free to give us a call if you have any questions. Okay, so some resources. So here are some of the resources available to military families. Again, we're going to send this to you in the after session emails. No worries about trying to scribble anything down. In the land of technology, there are a few options for accessing information. There is a deployment app that was created by the Esquimalt Military Family Resource Center that has countdown features and deployment tips. The R2MR, the Road to Mental Readiness program, is also available online and in an app. The training contains the entire package related to resilience and mental health training that is done throughout the Canadian Armed Forces member's career, including the deployment cycle. The R2MR program has an entire component designed for family members to provide you with guidance and skills to ease the stress of deployment, both on you and your family. And we've mentioned the MFRC, of course. Our programs and services are here to support you. The mental health and well-being team counselors are available, and emergency and respite childcare are other examples of some of the supports that we offer. The MFRC, as we said, is also a drop-off form, morale mail. Again, we have no control over deadlines or guidelines, but we do try our best to make it a little more easy and convenient for family members to drop off their packages. Natasha said she'll send out the specific guidelines. They're on our website as well if you have any questions. And again, we do offer regular workshops. There will be some, of course, coming up when the time comes for reunion, which will be very exciting, and possibly a supporting children through deployment to come in the next few weeks. So as well, the Canadian Forces Member Assistance Plan, that gives you free access to confidential counseling services in your area. They are available all across Canada and can provide no-cost counseling support, usually between 5 and 8 sessions, to anyone who identifies as a member of a military family. So that includes spouses, and it can include parents, of course, as well. The Family Information Line is a great resource, too. They can answer questions and provide support to families, and they are accessible 24 hours a day. It can be helpful to take some time in the pre-deployment phase to think about the resources that you might already have and consider even writing them down. What personal resources do you have? What social supports? And how about community resources? Are any of these areas that you might want to further develop? Some examples might include family, friends, and neighbors, minister or spiritual advisors, coaches, mentors, teachers, maybe a church group, community group, fitness group, clubs, school, whoever it is that's in your network. Kim Mills is a Canadian military spouse who blogs about military life under the title, She is Fierce. She's a fantastic blog. She has this great quote, "Friends, the definition of resiliency is not who can endure the worst while using the least help in order to ensure bragging rights later on. In fact, it's the very opposite. To teach resiliency, we need to stop glorifying how far we can push ourselves until we break, and instead encourage those to reach out early for help before they burn out." So how can we help each other? And how will you ask for help? So what resources do you see yourself using over the deployment? Or what's an example of a resource you might have used in the past? Heidi, feel free to type, and Vicki can speak.
One thing to add about this She is Fierce, Kim Mills, her husband actually just left on deployment too. I follow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she has a Facebook group too, and he just left on deployment too. He is a member of the Army, so the deployments look a little different than a ship deployment, but nevertheless, it's the same feelings and the same sense of somebody missing from the family dynamic. But she does it. She shares her experiences, and she has children as well. But she shares it in an honest and real way, in a very supportive community online. So, yeah, I encourage you to check her out. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
No, you're absolutely right. She actually, if I'm not mistaken, it's just not that long ago, but maybe a year and a half ago, she was at the MFRC and she spoke and shared some of her experience. Was it International Women's Day last year, maybe? Trying to remember. Anyway,
it was during the summer, but she was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the two of you? What resources do you see yourself using?
Well, I hope to be a resource.
It's great to see yourself in that way too, but you got to take care of you as well. So it's great that you're both willing to do that. What about you, Heidi? Yeah. Who's in your support system? Your friends, family, coworkers, and counselor. That is a great mix. Deployment is also a great time to think about where some unexpected supports might come from. Sometimes we don't really appreciate the people we have in our lives until they step up when we need them. So be open to the possibility of maybe adding new supports to your system as well. Okay, so we've come to the end of our session, and pretty well, right on time, good for us. So thank you all for being with us tonight. We've discussed a lot of information, and just a couple points to cover. The pre-deployment phase is filled with excitement and apprehension, but what we know is that military families can be very resilient, and deployment can provide many opportunities for growth for everyone. We wish you all the best on this journey, and we look forward to working with you. Now, please take a few seconds to think about what we talked about today. Whenever you're ready, you can speak or type in the chat box and tell us what your aha moment was, or something that surprised you, or made you think, that's interesting, I'm going to try that. This is also your chance to ask us any questions you might have. What do we got for aha moments?
Well, for me, I guess it was the post.
Yeah,
that would be it. I think. I not too much here for me. I'm afraid it's a little. My son's older. He's been away from home for a long time, so it's a lot harder for his partner than it will be for me. But Yeah, and when it comes to, I guess my one question is, when it comes to the homecoming information, do you email that out? I am not on Facebook, and I won't be, of course, on the Facebook group, but it would be helpful to know the Facebook that I can, or maybe I could give you his partner's email address and you could offer her that option. And also, where does information come from for the homecoming?
So the info for the homecoming comes from me or the deployment team at the Military Family Resource Center. So you said he's going in the summer too, right?
No, he's going in a couple of weeks.
He's going in a couple of weeks on a ship for 6 months,
Yeah.
right? Yes. So for the homecoming, we will be sending out on the Facebook page, but also in emails, because we do realize that not everybody is on Facebook, so we make sure we send the email as well with the same information. And so we give all the details of the time that the ship is due to arrive, where you can park, what building we're going to be at, what the weather is going to be, so dress accordingly. We give all of those details in an email, usually about a week and a half before the ship is due back. Because we have to wait to confirm from the fleet to make sure that the ship is still on schedule. And so once we hear from them, then we're able to send out that information so people can plan if they're traveling or if they need to take the day off work or childcare or things like that. So we definitely email as well. Mm-hmm.
Very good.
So if he's going in a couple weeks, then he probably already filled out his family contact form as part of the process when they do all their paperwork and get themselves ready. But you can, if you're comfortable sharing, Vicki, you can email me individually. My email is on the screen there, and with your son's name, and I can check to make sure that we have his information and that we have her information as well on his form. And if not, then we can definitely reach out to make sure that she gets on the list.
Hopefully, he must have put my email down because I received these emails about the. So he must have put mine down. Okay. But I'll ask him, and then if so, I'll email you. But I think he'd probably rather be the one to take care of that than me.
Yeah.
That's great. I appreciate it.
And he can email me himself too and say, can you add so and so to my information list? Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, and definitely, yeah, for yourself, Vicki, as well as you, Heidi, come out to deployment events and, meet some new people going through the same experience as you are. And Vicki, with your past deployments, it's a great opportunity for you to share and offer that support if you're comfortable too. It's nice to have
you have these groups. I mean, that wasn't offered in my day. And and that the parents can get together with their children and coffee and make friends. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and the last few deployments, I've found that we have a lot more parents of members, so usually mothers, I'll say, coming out for coffee and offering their support and getting support themselves too, which is great to see. Yeah.
Yeah, you never know what you might be able to offer to someone else as well. You come and enjoy the support of others, and you never really know what your own experience could do for someone who's maybe newer to it, and what kind of experience you can share with them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, Heidi, the closed Facebook group is great. It's a great way to stay connected. Of course, emails come as well, but it's a nice way to make connections with these folks who will be your community for 6 months and maybe longer. So thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts and comments with us. When you close out the session, a survey will pop up. We really appreciate any feedback that you can give us. If you have any further questions, of course, you can contact us by phone or Natasha's emails on the screen there. We're sending out an after-session email, as Tash mentioned, with the presentation and resources. So, but if we missed anything or there was something you caught we didn't mention, please don't hesitate to let us know. So to log out, please click at the red X at the top and the right side of your screen. And we wish you all a good night and a great deployment, as great as they can be.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye, Vicki. Bye, Heidi.